Okay, my Scandi checklist. What I would do if I was casting underhand or Scandi. I was making a video for myself about underhand casting. These are the pillars that make the cornerstones that construct the foundation of my Scandi cast for me. Hopefully they'll help you. As far as gripping the rod for underhand, I don't want shoulder width, I want hip width. Give you more line speed. We want to point our toes at the target. So if I'm going to cast, see right now, I'm going to cast back there. My toes are literally pointing behind me right now. Psych! So if I'm going to cast out towards the middle of the river, see my feet are going to be here. And then I'm going to swing through the run and my fly is going to be there. So see how I'm twisted around? Yet my toes are pointed almost directly across the stream where I'm going to cast. So lift, rotate, push, and cast. Am I lifting high enough, slow enough, smooth enough that I can pluck that fly right off the water with very little effort? Number two, am I hugging the rod, keeping my elbow from going back behind me? After my lift, when I sweep, this is what I do. I put my elbow in for the sweep, okay? And I make sure it stays snug, pinned to my rib cage here. If I get lost, I go back to that, and that makes me use my bottom hand for the sweep. Another very important part of my casting stroke is my top hand just a guide and a swivel? During the sweep, I want it to swivel and stay in front of me, okay? When I sweep for Skagit, I'm thinking out and around. When I sweep for Scandi or touch and go casting, I want to sweep the line under my rod tip and not out and around. I want to lift and then sweep under my rod tip, not out and around. With strict underhand casting, with this high lift, we're not going to be dipping the rod down a lot. If the rod tip is going to stay fairly flat, like we're drawing the circumference of a wine glass with the rod tip. Am I making too big of a production of the drift between the sweep and the forward cast? It helps for me if I sweep and then I make a big production as far as coming around too far. I tend to lose a lot of tension in my D-loop. I have better luck sweeping, doing a teeny drift, and firing. It's fine with me. I need to sweep and then keep the rod canted when I make my forward cast. The rod is pointing out like that. Crazy, then I cant my rod. I don't cast like this, I cant it out and cast a little, not really sidearm, but with my rod canted out. And I'm getting ready to forward cast after the sweep. If I'm gonna drift it all, I wanna be waiting with my right arm extended in this position with a flat rod angle. See, I wanna be at 2 o'clock and cast to about 10 o'clock. Is my elbow pointed in the direction I'm casting? And this is short line stuff. And all of these are just guidelines and ideas to chew on. They might not even work for you, but this is what I prefer and what has worked for me. If I get too sloppy and I'm not sweeping with my bottom hand, which puts me in a mindset to pull with my bottom hand. If I'm using too much top hand and I'm getting sloppy, I'll go back to keeping my elbow in the correct position for me. I don't want to have a big elbow conflict with the casting public. Am I just anchoring the leader? So 17 feet a leader. Very important on the forward cast is a smooth application of power. We want to accelerate from the 2 o'clock to the 2 o'clock or the 10 o'clock. Boom, okay? Accelerate smoothly. Smoothness is the key between all these steps. Smooth makes things beautiful, and it makes things feel heavy. I want it to feel heavy. I want everything to feel heavy throughout all parts of the cast. Smooth and heavy and soulish. Another important thing in the forward cast is, am I stopping the rod high so I can mend like this or like this? If we stop the rod high, we get tighter loops and we can mend. So am I stopping the rod at 2 o'clock or higher or higher? Stopping the rod. We do our stir the pot slowly, cast, we stop the rod about where it started. Stop the rod with our body. Now, that is a lot to think about. That is a lot to practice with. I stop the rod with my bottom hand sometimes. Another way you can stop the rod is to stop it by hitting your forearm down here and not the rod. Stopping the rod, you can stop it. See, just boom, right there. My weakness is I'll just slam it. You need to slowly accelerate with that bottom hand. The very end is the fastest part. Is if I'm going to speed up my sweep at all, it's going to kind of be at the end of the sweep. And this is a short Scandi head, so we don't have a lot of wiggle room for just powering a super accelerated sweep. But if I'm gonna sweep at all with a little bit of oomph, it's going to be at the last part of the cast, and it's going to be strictly with my bottom hand. I'm going to lift, rotate, it's gonna pop the fly loose right there. I'm gonna pop it loose with my bottom hand, not with my top hand. It's fine with me if you want to do it wrong. Push. If you push at the end, you're gonna pull with your bottom hand at the forward cast more likely, is my theory. That's what I do. Push. And also, when you do that, you can, if you want, you can push and get a little more zip in your sweep to make sure there's tension before the forward cast. I have no problem, but it's got to be just a little. It's cool. Another important part of the anchor is anchor lands in front for the best casts. So I want the anchor to land right out there, and it usually will slip back a little bit. So You know, and if you're scared of hitting yourself, just put it over to the side, and but just don't get it behind you. The longer the line, if you're using strict underhand with short shooting heads, you can lift like this for sure. But for longer lines, they get long, you're struggling, you might want to start the lift like this, you know, like that. Works good, but the shorter the head, the less persnickety about the lift. You still got to be persnickety, it's just easier. And yes, you can do it like this. With longer lines though, you have to adjust. Keeping my hands close together, hip width or even narrower, if I can handle the length of the line, really helps me to bend the rod. As far as gripping the rod, you can grip it like this with your thumbs lined up, or you can have a more relaxed grip like this and like this. You keep it loose, you know. Try hammering something with a tight grip, hammer and nail, and then hammer it with a loose grip and let the head of the hammer build some line speed. And it's evident there why we prefer a loose grip. But you're going to go from a loose grip to a tight grip right here, because you're going to stop the rod with your top hand. So that is something to adjust to. That can be a mind blower. On the forward cast, we want to accelerate slowly through top speed right there. 2 o'clock, slow, boom. We don't want to really put any power in it until we're here, straight up 12 o'clock or thereabouts.